Picture Earth about 100,000 years ago. We often imagine our ancestors as solitary pioneers on an empty planet, but the reality was much more crowded. At least 6 distinct human species shared the globe simultaneously. There were bulky, cold-adapted Neanderthals hunting in the ice-covered valleys of Europe, Denisovans in the deep caves of Siberia, and on the Indonesian island of Flores, an entire species of dwarf humans survived in the tropical brush. It is a common fallacy to view these siblings as older prototypes on a straight line towards us. They were distinct species, parallel human experiments adapted to wildly different environments with their own unique anatomies and behaviors. During this period, our direct ancestors were entirely unremarkable. They occupied a small corner of Africa, scrounging for bone marrow and hiding from top predators. Their impact on the environment was no greater than that of a gorilla or a firefly. This raises a difficult question. How did the world once home to at least 6 human species eventually end up with only one? Because we have been the only humans for the last 10,000 years, it is difficult for us to conceive of a world shared with equals. We look around, see no peers, and assume our isolation is part of a natural order. That belief is just a psychological illusion. Our current status as the sole human species isn't an ancient constant. It is a reality built on top of the forgotten graves of our evolutionary siblings. The mechanism that allowed us to conquer the globe was not physical strength. Neanderthals were far more muscular. Instead, around 70,000 years ago, our ancestors underwent an internal wiring shift in the brain, the cognitive revolution. This shift gave sapiens a unique language. For the first time, an animal could talk about things that do not physically exist. We gained the ability to invent, discuss, and believe in shared fictions. We use this same linguistic trick to organize the modern world. Concepts like human rights, money, and limited liability corporations exist only in our collective imagination. A company like Peugeot exists purely because millions of strangers agreed to believe in its legal status. Ants can work in huge numbers, but only in rigid ways with close relatives. Chimpanzees can cooperate, but only in small groups of individuals they know intimately. Sapiens, however, can coordinate flexibly with thousands of strangers through shared myths. By unifying under these imagined realities, we bypass the slow pace of genetic evolution. In a geological blink, an insignificant ape transformed into a highly coordinated force capable of rewriting the rules of the planet. Armed with this new ability to coordinate, sapiens pushed out of Africa, quickly overrunning Eurasia. Wherever they arrived, large animals disappeared. About 45,000 years ago, sapiens landed in Australia, and its giant animals were wiped out. The same pattern followed in the Americas. We drove creatures like 6-meter-tall ground sloths and massive mammoths to extinction. Long before we had factories or engines, our species had already become the deadliest in the annals of biology. This wave of destruction likely included our own family tree. Exactly as sapiens expanded, the Neanderthals and other human species vanished. They were too familiar to ignore, but apparently too different for our ancestors to tolerate. The sapiens' mind didn't just change how we lived, it transformed us into an unprecedented ecological force that pushed all other human species into oblivion. 5 centuries ago, the scientific revolution granted us power over the physical world that was previously inconceivable. We moved from sharpening flint spears to splitting the atom and leaving the boundaries of the planet. Now that power is turning inward. For 4 billion years, every organism on Earth evolved through the blind process of natural selection. We are currently dismantling that ancient law. Through bioengineering, we are rewriting life at the cellular level. Projects like the Quest for Immortality, the Gilgamesh Project, seek to treat aging and death not as divine decrees, but as technical problems with biological solutions. We are already creating biological chimeras. Scientists have grown a human-shaped ear made of cattle cells on the back of a laboratory mouse, proving that we can now shape living tissue to fit our own cultural ideas. After 4 billion years, the era of natural selection is coming to an end. We are moving beyond surviving our environment and beginning to reshape our own biological future through the principles of intelligent design. The next step moves past organic compounds. We are developing interfaces that link human brains directly to inorganic computer networks, aiming to supplement our natural memory and consciousness with artificial intelligence. If we alter our genetics and consciousness to the point that we no longer resemble our ancestors, it raises a final question. Will the beings who come after us even be human? When viewed over the long arc of time, sapiens' history may look like a brief experimental transition, a 300,000-year apprenticeship between the era of organic biology and the era of inorganic design. We are a bridge. We wiped out our biological siblings to master the world, only to turn around and engineer our own replacement. The nature of whatever steps off that bridge next remains entirely unknown.